Hey, everybody. Me again. So, this month we have been discussing the topic of building the beloved community. And so, where I want to start with today is our focus statement. So, let's say it together with velocity. I love that word. When I heard it recently, I was like, let's say it with velocity. All right, so here we go. We embolden people to live their highest potential through the transformative power of love. Breathe in that truth. Breathe in that focus statement that we hold near and dear here at Riverside Community Center for Spiritual Living. That we embolden people to live their highest potential through the transformative power of love. This is one of our guiding, I call it the focus statement because it's something that helps to guide our community. And it is something that evolved from within this community when we were creating that beloved tree over there way back in March, where each one of you had the opportunity to come forward with your name on it and what it is and who it is you are here to be in the world. And we had that popcorn session of where we went into spiritual practice, and all these words kept popping up about who our community is and what our community represents and how our community wishes to show up in the world. And as a result of that, the focus statement was revealed. And so we continue to use that as a guide, if you will, in how we choose to do things here at the center, how we choose to engage in the world outside of the center, and what it is that we are moving forward and how it is that we are supporting one another in community and building the beloved community. Earlier this month, Allison started us off with talking about the compassionate heart and how the compassionate heart is so important to developing the compassion and expressing and experiencing compassion, and how important that is to then begin to really develop the beloved community. And then we talked about taking personal responsibility in the second week, and we talked about doing our own work and our own spiritual practice and rooting ourselves in spiritual practice and rooting ourselves in spiritual principle. And how in so doing, then we develop a spiritual poise and a spiritual equanimity. That if the winds blow, that we're not blown so far off course. And we practiced and we indulged, not indulged, no, it was indulgent too. We practiced the idea of forgiveness. We practiced the Ho'oponopono. And we practiced Mae McCarthy's releasing statements and releasing prayers. We practiced those, and I invited you to take those out into your world, beginning to work with somebody with whom you might have a little bit of conflict, and then working with it deeper, on a much deeper level, a much larger level, if you so chose. And then last week we talked about codependency and we talked about interdependency, and how we are, as a community, we do not strive to be codependent. We strive to be interdependent. And we look to see and recognize how each person's life has value. And each person's life has value in my own life. And that if one person passes away or one person is struggling, then my life too is impacted by the struggle. And then I shared with you that this week we're going to move beyond these walls. Wow. Well, what's happened beyond these walls in the past week? Wow, 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 and more. Wow. So the week started with the administration trying to define gender as binary. Male or female, nothing in between, no other alternatives. And not only is it binary, male and female, but there's no possibility for it to ever be changeable. Well, what I know is in this community, We have folks who identify as non-binary. We have folks who identify as trans. And they are our brothers and sisters and siblings. In my own life, my brother-in-law is a trans man, and my niece is a trans girl. So it's very personal. This is my family. These are my people. So that started the week of experiencing the dissonance and the initial outrage and the initial discord and the initial wanting to go into protector bear mode, right? Not mama bear, not a mama. Not a papa either. But it rose within me. And then the next day we had pipe bombs. And then the next day, 2 people shopping with their grandchild in Kroger in Kentucky were gunned down. And somebody stood on a platform and declared themselves a nationalist and whipped everybody up into a frenzy. Thursday, more pipe bombs. Friday, they caught the guy. And yesterday, Tree of Life Synagogue. And yesterday, locally here, at the Cellar Door bookstore, where children and their parents were gathered for drag queen story time, were disrupted by a woman screaming that the drag queens were perverts, perversions, and out to molest the children in front of the children. And this is here in our beloved community of Riverside. It's been a week. If you've been paying attention, it's been a week. And so when I think of all of this that has been occurring and unfolding this week, and I remember who I am and the call upon my life, what I am called to do and how I am called to show up in the world as the power and presence of love, then I get to really look deep. And I get to look really hard at who I am and what I believe and how I choose to show up in the world. And I think this is a call for all of us to do the same. It's not just me. It's not just Jeff being asked to do this. If we are coming together in community, it is our community that is being asked to do this. And so each one of you is being asked to do this. Do I choose to show up as the power and presence of love, or do I choose to show up some other way? So the beloved community is a resilient community. It has at its core, one of its core principles, if you will, one of its core foundations is resiliency. And so we've been talking about, I've been using the book Creating the Beloved Community by Reverend Dr. Jim Lockhart as we've been discussing these things this month. And so there's a piece on resiliency here that I want to share with you that's from his book. And he says, resiliency is the capacity to handle setbacks, loss, and other challenges. This is a key element of the spiritual community. To be resilient is to realize that you have much to call upon when difficulties arise, both individually and collectively. Indeed, it is to hold a capacity for amazement and wonder, regardless of what is in your immediate presence. Amazement is tied to the consciousness of healing, mutual support, and possibility, thus bringing the community to a greater capacity for compassion and love. To be in the beloved community is to see with the eyes of love. And so it is easy when we are experiencing difficulties and challenges, when things in the outside world, things beyond these walls, are influencing what we see and how we feel and how we express. It's easy to be blown by the winds that are out there. It is easy because it is so present and pressing in our faces on every media format and platform that it's almost hard to escape that which is going on beyond these walls. And so sometimes what we want to do is we want to just shut down. We want to disengage. We want to pull back. I understand that. I understand that. And sometimes, we need to take a break. We do. We need to take a break, regather ourselves, regroup ourselves, take a nice deep breath, and get back to center. But what I would encourage you to do in these times is not withdraw, but to lean into. Lean into your community, this community. Engage with it. Lean into your spiritual practices. Do them faithfully. Lean into your daily meditation. Lean into your daily prayer. Lean into the spiritual practices and the spiritual principles that you know and that you value and that you hold true and near and dear. And practice, practice, practice. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. Practice, practice, practice. And it is that practice that helps develop that resiliency, because it is that practice that we can lean into in times when we're seeing things unlike love. It's the practice of going deeper. It is the practice of going within. It is the practice of remembering who you truly are. And if I truly believe that there is only one life, and that life is the divine, and that there is only this one life, then I have to sit with that, and I have to take it really deep. And I have to be present with it. And I get to practice the presence on a moment-by-moment basis. Of constantly reminding myself of the truth. It doesn't deny the circumstance, but it allows for a greater stability to see through the circumstance and beyond the circumstance, to see a deeper level, perhaps, of understanding, to see a broader perspective. And then to be and show up as the power and the presence of love in that. Radical compassion. Compassion is one of those values that we value here at the center. We value compassion, we value love and community, we value spiritual development, we value inclusion, and we value being open to greater and greater possibilities. So compassion, we talked about it this morning in the morning table. Across the way in Johnson Hall, we have started doing a morning table. It's a round table discussion where we talk about one of the points or one of the topics that is part of the message here today. And we have an opportunity to sit and discuss. And we had, again, 15 people there. That was wonderful. So yes. Great discussion, deep discussion, authentic conversations, real, deep, authentic conversations happening around those tables. And this morning we talked about compassion and radical compassion, and what does that mean? And it does, and we decided and we discussed, and I think we all agreed upon that compassion does not mean condoning behavior. Compassion doesn't mean condoning, just like forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Right? But compassion, especially radical compassion, means having compassion for those that we would feel challenged to have compassion for. Radical compassion means that agape love, that deep universal love, the highest form of universal love that there is, of loving your neighbor as yourself, of loving your enemy if there is such a thing, of loving the other. It doesn't mean we have to sit and chat with them. Doesn't mean we have to go have coffee with them. Doesn't mean that we condone or dismiss unskilled behavior. But what it does mean is seeing past the unskilled behavior to open our hearts in such a way that we gain a new perspective. Open our hearts in a way that the namaste comes through. Namaste being the divine in me honors and recognizes the divine in you, regardless of the package that's coming in right now. Right? And so, with the events that have unfolded this week, each event has been an opportunity to practice the agape love. Each event has been an opportunity to practice radical compassion, radical inclusion. I believe it was somebody said, nobody wakes up in the morning and say, hey, today I'm going to ruin my life. Right? There's something there. In order to be able to commit these acts of atrocity, to commit the hate crimes, to commit just the outpicturing of hatred, for lack of a better word, there's a deep pain in that person. There has to be a deep pain in that person. There is a sense of separation that is going on. Because if I truly see you as my neighbor, if I truly see us as one, then there is no way I can harm you, and there is no way I can be harmed by you. Because there is only the one life. There is only the one. And so, it's that sense of separation. It's that not even understanding that there is a wholeness or an allness or a fullness, that there is only one life. It is that misunderstanding that somehow seeing ourselves as separate, as individualized, and reifying, making real, making divine, making sacred and holy the individual self more so than the one self, that causes the separation. That then allows for violence, that allows for violent acts, violent words, violent thoughts, and then the acting upon those. If we allow ourselves, if we are not doing our spiritual practice, if we are not anchored in love, if we are not constantly bringing ourselves like a puppy back to the paper, though our puppy does still, after a year, doesn't really like the paper. Puppy back to the paper of love, of wholeness, of oneness. We keep bringing ourselves back to that. If we don't do that, if we allow ourselves to get caught in the swirl, we're contributing beyond these walls to the dysfunction that we're seeing in the media. We have to bring ourselves back. Because if we are not operating from a place of love, then who the hell is? If we're not doing it, and we're not willing to do it, then who is? If I'm not willing to do it, who's going to do it? If we as a community aren't willing to do it, aren't willing to practice what we preach, practice what we teach, practice what our principles are, if we're not willing to do it, then who is? Jim also says in the beloved community, he says this: the beloved community is a community with something significant to contribute to the more universal beloved community. Committed people dedicated to the expansion of love and possibility constitute such a community. One more time. The beloved community is a community with something significant to contribute to the more universal beloved community. In other words, we as a community have something to contribute to the community that is beyond these walls. We have something to contribute. The power and presence of love, emboldening people to live their highest potential through that transformative power of love. We have something to contribute. And committed people, that's all of us, dedicated to the expansion of love and possibility, constitute this community. Yes? Yes. Are you dedicated? Yes. Are you committed? Yes. You ready to do something about it? All right. So, rooted in spiritual principle, rooted in spiritual practice. What we're going to do for the next few moments is we're going to do a collective meditation. And with one singular, solitary focus: love lives here. What I invite you to do is I invite you to take that into your heart and let it start, grow, and grow from there and expand out. So I will guide you through this. But let's start with that. So if you feel comfortable in doing so, I invite you to close your eyes at this time and breathe in and out a couple more times, feeling the flow of life, the flow of love that maintains and sustains your life. And recognizing that your life is one with the one life that is never separate from the one life. In fact, it is all that there is. You're just simply bringing your awareness into alignment with that which already is, with the who of who you already are, who you were born here to be, and who you were here to show up as. And so allow the phrase, love lives here, to rise up within you into that heart space. The seat of love, the seat of oneness, the seat of compassion. Breathe it in. With each breath, feel it expand within your own being, your physical body, with each breath, love lives here. Just allow that to repeat. Love lives here. Love lives here. Love lives here. Love lives here. Now see, if you will, this love lives here as light, if you choose, something beneficent. And see it pouring forth from your heart space. Again, love lives here. Love lives here. Love lives here. And see this love spilling out all over the floor of the sanctuary. And with each breath, love lives here. Love lives here. There is a rising tide of love starting at the floor and filling the room, rising up the walls, rising above you. It's easy to breathe because it is love that you're breathing. And continuing, love lives here, out through your heart space. Love lives here. Love lives here. Love lives here. Now see, if you will, this love fountaining from the top of the building. This love that you are generating, this love that you are, continues to expand with each breath. Love lives here. It fountains out from the top of the sanctuary. And it gains momentum, spilling down the hill, spilling up the hill, spilling into the city of Riverside itself. Each breath quickens this mantra of love lives here. See it surrounding the Canyon Crest neighborhood. Cellar Door Books. Love lives here. See it surrounding the beloved who has lost her way. It's beloved who believes in separation. See it surrounding her and enfolding her. Love lives here. Love lives here. See this tidal wave of love flowing out from our city and across our nation. Right where we are, the fountain of love is. The presence of love is. Love lives here. And it washes across the country. It washes to our beloveds in Kentucky. It surrounds the man who felt so separated that he committed violent acts. See this love washing all the way down to Florida and to each person who received one of those packages in the mail. And to the man in his white van. Who felt so much pain and dissociation, so much separateness, that he felt that violence was the way to go. Again, breathing in, love lives here. Continuing to be the font of love lives here. And see this tidal wave of love now moving to Pennsylvania, to Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, to the city of Pittsburgh, to the area of Squirrel Hill, to the community of Tree of Life Synagogue. Love lives here. Love lives here. Being the font of love, being the power and presence of love, you're bringing your consciousness and your love here to this place in this time across the country. And seeing this love surround this beloved individual with so much pain in his heart, that deep, deep sense of separation. That he too felt his only recourse, his only way out, was through an act of violence. Love lives here. Love lives here. And to our administration, who also is participating in the separation, who is so pained who is so suffering, who feels that great sense of separation, that he too is acting from that place of deep pain. And see, this love lives here. Love lives here. Wash and surround. And lift. Each one of us is the consciousness of healing, the consciousness of compassion, the consciousness of love. Love lives here. Love lives here. Love lives here. And as you continue to breathe and breathe, the love lives here, breathing it out into the world, being the font of love, being the power and presence of love, see it surround the globe. See the globe awash in this love. That anywhere there is discourse, dysfunction, disharmony, a sense of separation, anywhere there is violence occurring, just simply allow it to be washed in the presence of love. That font, love lives here. Love lives here. Love lives here. Allow the world to be washed in love. And simultaneously being aware of the entire world and being aware of the power and the presence within you. I invite you to notice that love lives here. Love lives here. Love lives here. Bring yourselves back into these four walls while maintaining that awareness that is beyond these four walls. Feel that? It's love. It's unconditional love. That is who we truly are. That is what we've come here to express. It's what we've come here to recognize in each other. And it is this, when we talk about the transformative power of love, it's this that we mean. So thank you for showing up as you are, the presence of love. This community has several opportunities to demonstrate this love in greater ways. One of those ways is through the Care Portal, where we are helping to support families in crisis, families in need, so that their children can stay together, or they can stay with their children can be returned to them. And one of those ways that we are supporting one of those families right here and right now is we have a young mother, a 17-year-old mother, single mom, who is in need of a crib for her little one, and in need of diapers and in need of other supplies. So if that is calling on your heart, then I invite you to, I don't see Darlena, but I invite you to, oh, Darlena, hello, love. Hi, sweetie. Darlena's right here. If you would stand up for a moment, Darlena. This is Darlena. If this is calling on your heart that you would like to help this mother, please come see Darlena after service, and she'll be able to help you connect in that way. So that is one of the ways. Thank you, Darlena. That is one of the ways that we are helping out currently, one of the ways that we're showing up. Another way is we're going to be helping support Olive Crest. It is a foster youth organization. We'll be helping them to supply Christmas for the foster youth. Another way that we are helping to show up and being the power and the presence of love is right here with our own Mana Project, or as people say, Mana, but anyway, Mana Project, where we are helping to provide Thanksgiving for families this year. And so Trisha will be here next week to help explain more about that and how you can participate in that so that we can help do that in the world. Another way that I would encourage you to be the power and presence of love in the world, go and see Linda at Cellar Door Books in Canyon Crest. Buy a book from her. Show your love and support for her, the way she has stood up and taken a stand in this community, to offer a place for LGBTQ plus people to have a safe place to gather. Show your support for that. Don't just clap for it on Sunday morning. Go over to Canyon Crest and show her the love. And next time we have drag queen story time, let's show up. Because it's fun, oh my God. Yeah. And then today at 3 o'clock, we are participating in the Peace Walk. And so for those of you that have signed up for the Peace Walk, we are participating in the Peace Walk today. We are gathering at 3 o'clock. It starts at 3 o'clock at First Church of Christ Scientist. It's on 6th and Lemon. So it's, for those of you who may be like, I don't really know where that is, it's near the library downtown, okay? So we invite you to show up for the Peace Walk as well. So those are some of the ways that we as a community are participating right here and right now to spread the love, to be the love that goes and flows beyond these walls. And each one of you doing your spiritual practice the way we just did it today contributes to a world that works for everyone and for all of creation. And so I want to leave you with these words from the Talmud. Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now. Love mercy now. Walk humbly now. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. And so it is. And so I invite our practitioners and our core council members to please stand and surround the room as we move into a brief moment of prayer, because once again we've taken a nice deep dive in consciousness, and so let's anchor that deep dive in prayer now. So recognizing that there's only one power, one presence, one life, one infinite eternal beingness, one love. Call it what you will. It does not matter, because what it is love. And this love is all that there is. It is this love that brought forth all of creation as itself, in itself, through itself, expressing itself so magnificently and so perfectly and so gorgeously as all of creation. And this I know to be true, that there truly is only one. So I know that my life is a divine expression of this one life. That I am love made manifest. That truly love is all there is. There could be nothing else. So therefore, all of creation is love made manifest, love incarnate. So I recognize that each individual person gathered here today, in fact, everyone on the planet, everyone who's ever walked the planet, everyone who ever will walk the planet, and all of life itself is this one life, is this one love. We are all one. And so I speak my word here and now. I speak my word for the communities that are hurting this day, who have been struck by the tragedies that have occurred this week. I know that right where they are, the power and presence of love is. And I also speak a word of love for the beloveds who have lost their way, who have felt so separate, so lost, in so much pain, that they committed these acts of violence not knowing who they truly are. I by no way condone the behavior, the unskilled behavior, but I speak a word of compassion, knowing that right where they are too, the beloved is, that God is, that love is. And I speak a word of love for our country. I speak a word of unity for our country. I call forth into awareness right here and right now the consciousness of oneness in the hearts and minds of every individual. I call it forth. I see you, I hear you, and I know who you truly are. I call it forth. I call each one to their spiritual awakening. Because it is in this awakening, it is in this love that our nation and our world is healed. And I speak a word of blessing for this beloved community, our Riverside Community Center for Spiritual Living. A word of blessing and a word of gratitude for the bravery and the compelling, compassionate heart that is right at the center of each one of us, that beats us, that lives us, that spreads out into the world. I give thanks for our sacred yes to be a leader in our community, to be a leader in our world,